Welcome to episode 107 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of September 26th, 2024. I'm Logan Plant, joined this week just by Chris Shriver. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Logan.
Do you know where Justin Corais is right now?
I actually forgot until you said that. I was like, oh, I wonder where Justin is this week. And then it hit me. He's in Japan right now.
He is. He is in Tokyo, Japan. As we speak, he just messaged me like moments ago from another time zone, another continent. Very exciting. Excited to hear about all of his Tokyo Game Show adventures when he returns to us in 2 weeks. But for today, it's a big show here because it is the 26th. It is The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom launch day. The game is out. Reviews are out. We haven't gotten to play it yet. We are waiting for the full release to dive all the way in. I'm very excited. Let's talk about the reviews, Chris. It's sitting at an 85 on OpenCritic right now based on 38 critic reviews. Tom Marks at IGN gave it a 9, and he says, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is far more than some second-tier spin-off. That's no shade at Princess Peach Showtime right there, even though it really directly is. Combining the expertly crafted dungeons and item progression you'd expect from a 2D Zelda with the wild creativity provided by Tears of the Kingdom. And then Nintendo Life also gave it a 9, saying The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom should be the new standard for top-down Zelda going forward. Rather than abandoning the classic formula, Zelda has shown that the old and new can come together and produce wonderful results that reward experimentation and reinforce the joy of play. This is easily in contention with A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds as one of the best top-down adventures in the series, and we hope we don't need to wait another 35 years for Zelda to take a starring role again. So that's just a brief snapshot of the reception. It's been pretty positive overall. Chris, where's your hype level at on launch day, and what have you thought of the reception so far?
I think that last sentence alone actually has me the most excited that I've been throughout this entire lead up to launch at this point. The fact that Link Between Worlds is, while an easy game, one of my favorite Zeldas. And I really miss the top-down formula just generally. It was a bit of a bummer to see that the performance issues that were plaguing the Link's Awakening remake. Yeah, the Link's Awakening remake are still here. Not much we can do about that, but I mean, otherwise, no, I'm very excited for this. The flaws that Tom points out in his review are some of the things that we kind of called out ahead of time, specifically around menu management and item management.
Yep.
We kind of expected that was going to be a problem. So go us. But at the same time, kind of a bummer that, that is the case. But I'm very excited. I just wrapped Astrobot on the
Congrats
PS5.
on beating a video game in 2024, Chris. You did
Thank you very much. I finally did it. Dad can still play games, folks. He can still do it. Do difficult things in games and get the platinum trophy. He did it, even though this is a Nintendo podcast. But yeah, I'm very excited. I don't know how much I'm realistically going to be able to play this weekend. We have a lot going on, but I have nothing else really lined up for the foreseeable future game-wise. This is kind of my primary.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. One. So I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's looking like everything I wanted it to be. And if you listened to our Nintendo voice chat this week, I was on it with Tom, and we talked about his review for literally 50 minutes. We talked about just everything he thought about the game for nearly an hour. And just listening to it, it just really sounds like that puzzly angle of a Zelda game that I've really been wanting them to do. And the combat is apparently the weak point in this thing, and I'm okay with that because Zelda combat to me is never the primary draw to why I play those games. I like it. I especially like it in Twilight Princess with all the hidden moves that you learn from the Old Soldier, and Wind Waker with kind of that really nice rhythm-based counter move that he has. That's the most satisfying thing ever when it's timed with the music. I love that stuff. But for me, it's the puzzles, it's the exploration, it's the world, it's the music, it's all that stuff, much more so than the combat. So not a huge deal to me that the combat apparently isn't that great. And from what I played at the preview, I liked it. I liked dropping the echoes and watching them just hack and slash at the enemies. I thought it was fun and different, and I'm excited to experiment with it and see, can I build a stack of crates and then get on the stack of crates and then summon a rock echo and drop the rock on an enemy's head and damage it that way. I'm just excited to see what are some of the crazy things we can do with it. So super psyched to play. Happy it's getting good reception. And performance issues, I don't think it's as bad as Link's Awakening from what I've read and from what I've seen of the game. I think I went back and played Link's Awakening a little bit over the last week. It's worse than I remember. It is not good.
It's not good.
Like, yeah, it's rough to go and play. Just every time you walk into a new area, that stutter, that drop to, I don't know, 15 frames, it feels like at times for 5-10 seconds before it just jumps back to 60 out of nowhere. It's really jarring, but Echoes seems more like just little hitches and stutters here and there, which is kind of what Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild have. I think it's more similar to those performance issues than the Link's Awakening ones.
What I don't know, and you would be able to answer this because I haven't even done a demo of this game. When you, obviously this is more of an open world setup. When you're in that overworld and you're going from from one section of the map to the next, is it one smooth transition or is it one huge sweep like on a Game Boy?
It's not screens. It's like a Link Between Worlds where it's just a world. Yeah.
That's probably what killed that game. If I had to point at anything, it's just the number of assets that it had to load at once. Like,
yeah,
it's too much data, I think, for the Switch to be able to handle. Like, even if you look at Twilight Princess or not Twilight Princess, excuse me, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, or Pokemon Arceus, like while you're playing that game, assets load in the foreground as you're moving, and this seems like the case with Echoes of Wisdom. That's probably how they got around it, to be honest. That's probably one of the reasons they moved to that.
And just because that's a very Game Boy style thing is what they did with Link's Awakening, and they didn't need to do the same thing with that one. But super psyched about all the reception to this one. I want to talk about the Ask the Developer series that's on Nintendo.com for this, because it's awesome. If I shout it out every time they do this for a first-party game because it's so cool, and people need to go read these, so they keep doing them. But this is basically the replacement for Iwata Asks, and they have 14 of them for different first-party Switch games from the last several years. And the latest one they did was for Echoes of Wisdom. 4 parts. It just finished this morning on Wednesday, the day we're recording this, and they confirmed Grezzo's the developer, the co-developer of this thing. We all thought so. We didn't know. It's a co-development thing. There's a director at Nintendo, a director at Grezzo, but they're the lead developers over at Grezzo with Nintendo's kind of oversight. Aonuma had a ton of ideas and input on this thing as well. But speaking of the Nintendo director, it was Tomomi Sano, who is the first woman to ever direct a Legend of Zelda game. She's been at Nintendo for over 20 years, as apparently everybody who works at that company seems to, based on our episode 100 discussion. And she has worked on Ocarina of Time 3D, Majora's Mask 3D, Triforce Heroes, Link's Awakening as kind of the communications liaison between Nintendo and Grezzo. So she now has stepped up into a higher role, doing a similar thing, directing this project from Nintendo's side of things. So that's awesome, Chris. Super cool.
It's incredible. No, that's the best news we could have gotten.
Yeah. And so then my initial thought is, it's okay, cool. You have a woman directing this game for the first time ever. How did it come to be that it was Zelda the first time that a female is the playable character in a Legend of Zelda game? Did those things go hand in hand at all? And the answer is no. This thing started as a Zelda dungeon maker where they were copying and pasting doors and keys, and it was basically a blown up version of the pretty mediocre Dompe's dungeon thing from Link's Awakening. And Aonuma completely changed it a year into development. And there's a quote in the Ask the Developer where he basically says he knew the entire time they were working on this thing he was going to completely flip the script on them. He just didn't tell them until a year in because he wanted them to nail down this copy paste system before he overwhelmed them with this whole idea he had for it to take it out into the overworld and make it the core concept of a full-fledged 2D Legend of Zelda game. So, I mean, that's he's
a puppet Gandalf master. Move.
I know. Yeah, it totally is. Yeah. But very cool to see kind of his involvement in that, and that Grezzo had this idea. Nintendo comes to them and says, hey, make your first ever Zelda game from scratch, where you come up with the concept, you plan the whole thing, let's see what you can do. And they came up with this whole copy-paste concept. They had Link as the main character. They have some prototype footage on this Ask the Developer website about what Link was doing. And then they basically just said the sword and shield was getting in the way. And how are we going to encourage the player to use echoes and use this mechanic we've spent so long building if you can just hack and slash with your sword and shield like you always can? And Aonuma's answer was, make it Zelda. And so this was not the case of, we're going to make a 2D Zelda game where you play as Zelda, what does she do? This is very much what we suspected. They have this idea, and they determine it fits Zelda better than it fits Link, and then they went from there.
I mean, it all It all starts to make sense when you look at it that way. Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I'll say Nintendo is cool. It's cool about Nintendo that they are willing to expose this type of thing to its fan base and to the people that follow it this closely. Not we don't know what happens at every studio, and obviously games change throughout the course of development. But I respect the fact that the people that are in higher positions of power from a lead game design standpoint are able to know, okay, we need to be able to develop these systems without charting people off course, right? Like it's almost like a very like next level Scrum Master type of thing to have to do. Like if you get into like software development, to know, okay, if we force them to do this, then this will happen, or get them to a certain point that they'll be able to create this brand new thing that none of them are even thinking about. In some aspects, it is a little bit manipulative, but like it's for a positive outcome, obviously. But I appreciate
it's not like that work went to waste or anything either, right? They used everything they did. Yeah,
it's not like they're scrapping an entire game. And it's a method that obviously is not super easy to do. You have to be able to like have that level of foresight and think that far ahead. But it would be nice to see more people do that, because I think that's where you really start to get those creative ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love that this is why I had faith in this game from the beginning. And if you're listening, Justin, this is what we talked about on that infamous episode, was Aonuma showed up, right? And that was the signal to me, hey, this is a mainline big thing. This isn't Princess Peach Showtime. This isn't, we're going to hand a spin-off Peach game to Goodfeel and really have no oversight whatsoever. This is Aonuma and Sano on the phone every day working on this thing with Grezzo, who's also in Tokyo, so they're just a train ride away from each other. I'm sure they visited the studio many times over the course of this game's 4 or 5 year development. We don't really know. But I just think that Aonuma having his hands in it, that's why Zelda's the playable character. That's why Echoes are what they are in the overworld, right? That he's just has these grand ideas that he can tell these people that he trusts. He has a really great line in the interview about how this game was like watching his kids grow up, because it was these people he's trusted for years that he gave more control and more direction over a bigger project than they've ever had before, and that he feels like they pulled it off, and that it sounds like this was Grezzo's true test to be the stewards of 2D Zelda, and from the reviews today and from everything in this interview, it sounds like they passed, and that this is going to be a thing, Chris. And there is a quote from Aonuma where he said, actually, I've always wanted to establish a 2D top-down Legend of Zelda series that's separate from the 3D entries like Breath of the Wild. We wanted to cherish that kind of diversity in the Zelda series. And I love that line so much, because every Zelda is so different. And while Aonuma and Fujibayashi are cooking the next thing that's going to take 7-8 years to make, I love that Grezzo's going to be doing stuff like this.
Well, and they need to be able to do that, right? Like, we talk about those top 5 franchises that Nintendo has, those pillars, obviously Zelda among them, and it can't all fall in the first party. Like, development takes too long for the scale of the game that they want to create, or that it seems like they want to continue to create moving forward. It's not like the GameCube days where you can crank out 2 3D Zeldas on one platform, or in 64. You just can't. They rolled out Majora's Mask in a year and a half, 2 years.
And then we just Tears of the Kingdom is such an easy comparison to that, because it's a reused assets thing, and it took them 6 years. It took 6 years to make a sequel in the same world.
Right. And my old man brain, like, all I can do is hope that they're going to say, okay, we've established that Grezzo is the 2D top-down Zelda studio. What do we do for mainline linear 3D Zelda, traditional style Zelda, like 3D Zelda games? Not like, I'll say, Souls-esque open world. People will probably cut me off at the knees for saying it that way, but like, that level of scale of an open world. What do you do about that? Or do you just let it go? It seems like Aonuma wants to let it go, but I don't know how the rest of Nintendo feels about that, when you figure it took Grezzo 4 years or so, 4.5 years to get this out the door, right? When Link's Awakening came out, we all looked at each other. Obviously, this is pre-Toadstool Boardroom, but we all looked at each other like, well, Mario Maker was a thing. Zelda Dungeon Maker is obviously a thing with this amiibo support. Like, that's where they want to go with this, and obviously they went in a different direction.
Apparently they tried, though, and it just didn't work.
And it didn't work out, yeah. I mean, props to them for, giving it the college try, but at that point, you're looking at a 2 or 3 year gap between the releases of each of your major games in these franchises. Now they're in a weird spot because Tears of the Kingdom was last year. This was this year. How long until the next one? Like, what is that going to end up looking at? Is that 6-7 years for another Zelda game? I can't imagine that's the case. I would think within the first 2 or 3 years of the next console's life cycle, they want one of those out the door. But, like, who would be making that? What does that look like? Is it the Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD remake we've been talking about? Or is it an Ocarina remake that I keep praying for, even though I don't think we need it now because Ship of Harkinian is a thing? But that's also PC man talking.
Yeah, I think the Nintendo consoles could use it. I think they could really use it. No, I'm glad you brought this up, Chris, because I was having the exact same internal dialogue with myself today of, tomorrow, the day this game comes out for us, are we about to undergo the longest gap between new Zelda games we've ever seen?
I think
does that drought start tomorrow? Because it's exactly like you said. They wanted Tears out the door earlier than they got it, but instead they're a year apart. And so is it going to be, okay, the next 2D thing's ready to go, and the next 3D thing is ready to go around the same time as each other? They aren't going to want to do that. And is it just going to be Ocarina of Time HD, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess HD, Link Between Worlds remaster? Like, when's the next time we're going to see something new? I'm sure we're going to see remakes and ports and maybe spin-offs, maybe a new Hyrule Warriors or something like that. Those sell pretty well, but in terms of a actual new 3D or 2D Zelda, it could be 5 years. And that's kind of daunting to think about when we see these other franchises on other platforms specifically that just take forever to come out. And it just feels like an eternity between these entries. And Zelda's had a pretty good cadence. I think about the Switch output, and they've had 2 new 3D games, a 2D remake, a 3D HD remaster, a new 2D game, a Warriors port, a new Warriors game, an indie rhythm game. Like, it's been amazing. And I just don't know what it looks like for the next generation.
I think you're going to see more. You won't see it. I mean, you might see Cadence of Hyrule too. I think you'll see more things like that where it's like, okay, because we saw a lot of that this generation in general from Nintendo, like even Mario plus Rabbids from Ubisoft, them kind of sharing that IP with third-party developers in new and interesting ways. But reading the tea leaves, it makes them not releasing those HD ports make a lot more sense. They're like, you know what? Let that cook for 2 or 3 more years. Let Zelda fans start getting up. Let them get upset that there's nothing, and then put that out on the Switch. And you've got it. There you go. You've got it for everybody that owns a Switch and everybody that owns a Switch too.
It's still going to be a Switch game.
Assuming it's backwards compatible. Yeah, they will. Yeah, it won't be on Switch too. They'll just say you can play it there if you want. At least that's my guesstimate at this point, because it's either that or I can't imagine it's a different HD remake. We've been hearing about them for so long at this point.
Yeah, unless it is Ocarina, unless they're doing it, which I could see.
And he had that weird interview at maybe I think it was around the time Tears of the Kingdom came out. There was an interview with Aonuma where somebody asked him about that, and he was like, I can either confirm or deny that anything like that exists. Yeah. Did
you know that also in that little interview tour he was doing at the time, IGN asked him, are we ever going to have a game where we play as Zelda? And he said, that sure would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be something fun to explore someday. And then 6 months later, they announced,
by the way.
Yeah, so you can't trust anything.
No, you can't.
Or like Majora's Mask 3D was another big one of, that would make a lot of sense if we did that. Maybe we should think about it. And they announced 2 days later. That's just how they roll. That's how they roll a lot of the time. But so we don't have the game yet, so I wanted to do a fun little game here of our own while we're waiting for Echoes of Wisdom ourselves, which is to just count down our top 5 or top 10, your choice, Chris. I have a top 10 ready to go. Our top 10 Zelda games. And then, did you do 5?
I did 5, and I sat here like, beating my head against the desk trying to figure out what the top 5 were going to be.
Because you had to make cuts? Because you had
I kept cutting, and then I was like, well, that has to be there. Well, this has to be there. Like,
yeah, you can do 10 if you got time to scratch out 5
yeah. I can make this happen.
But basically, I just wanted to do this and then kind of talk about where we think or hope Echoes of Wisdom could fit in once we've played it, just based on our kind of gut read of it. We can revisit it once we've finished Echoes and let it sit for a bit to see if we were right on where this thing is going to land. So, Chris, you there yet, or do you need a little bit more time?
I need a little bit more time. Why don't you go first there?
Okay, my top 10 Zelda games, I'll just roll through these really fast. Number 10, Triforce Heroes, a game I think I love more than pretty much anybody else because I played it in multiplayer as it was meant to be, and that game rules. Number 9, Link's Awakening. I still really like that remake, even though it does have the performance issues. Otherwise, I loved that game. I had a great time with it back in 2019. Number 8, Breath of the Wild. You all know I'm not as high on this as everybody else is in the world, but I still like it a lot. Number 7 is A Link to the Past. Number 6, probably the biggest riser over the last few years, is Skyward Sword HD, which is a game I did not like for a very long time. Played the HD remaster and fell in love with it and 100%ed it and just devoured absolutely everything I could do in that game. It's awesome. It's so great. I still think the original is not too great, but the HD remaster absolutely rules and cleans up everything bad about that game. Number 5 is Wind Waker HD. Used to be my number 2, but it's honestly fallen. It's still my top 5 favorite Zelda games, which is almost a short list of my favorite games of all time. So I love Wind Waker, but I just think that the second half of the game clearly feels unfinished, and it is. I mean, it is unfinished. There's a whole dungeon that's not there, and the Triforce quest sucks, and it's just the vibes immaculate, the soundtrack amazing, the story great, the dungeons that are there really fun, the combat some of the best in the series, but it just feels unfinished to me.
How cool would it have been if for the HD remake they finished it? Like,
yeah,
I know they were like looking for anything to put on Wii U at that point, and they were just like, "Oh, Wind Waker, put it on there." Like that was the state that Nintendo was in. But like, man, if they ever did a remake or a remaster of that game, I would love to see that.
Yeah, that would be nice. Just add that dungeon. They already did clean up the Triforce quest a bit, but now it's like, okay, now you just like truncated your padding, and it just feels really weird. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
Number 4 is Ocarina of Time 3D. That's the best version of that game, and I've thought about it. That's one of the best like remakes of all time. Ocarina of Time 3D rules. It preserves everything great about the original and just makes it way easier to play with like the iron boots being an actual item that you don't have to go into the pause menu to take them on and off every time. You can just equip them to one of your touchscreen slots and just tap. That's really nice. The graphics look amazing, like an actual realization of what the concept art always looked like. The 3D remake rules. For years, I thought of it as lesser than because it is on a handheld, but I've just been thinking about it lately. That's like a perfect remake of that video game. It's amazing. Number 3, Link Between Worlds. You all know I adore that game. Favorite top-down Zelda, hands down. Some days I feel like it's my favorite. My top 3, they go back and forth all the time. Number 2, Twilight Princess HD, and number 1, Tears of the Kingdom. So that is my 10.
Number 10 is Oracle of Seasons.
Nice. I still need to finish those games. I never have.
I was kind of hoping they were. I mean, and that may be something that they do to fill the gaps too. Is like I really thought Grezzo was going to do a remake of those or Minish Cap on the Switch, and they never did. Once they came to Switch Online, I was like, yeah, this is never happening. I was pretty much out on that. I go back and forth between it and Ages. Seasons is the one where it's more combat focused, and in my old age, if I'm playing a game, I'm more like mashy.
Okay.
I'm on here to hit stuff. I don't want to think. Yeah, I don't want to be thinky. I'm actually kind of concerned about that with Echoes of Wisdom because of that. But we'll have to see. Triforce Heroes number 9. It was just such a unique take on the Zelda formula. And honestly, I feel like it's like the most underappreciated or like least talked about Zelda game. I know people like to dunk on it.
I put out a tweet today, Chris, that was like, because all these reviews and everything about Echoes of Wisdom, and even Nintendo's own interview themselves, they say, this is the first original Zelda Grezzo has worked on. No, it's not. They co-developed Triforce Heroes. And Nintendo said that in their own article. Yeah. And I just think that's crazy. And then all the reviews are the first top-down Zelda in 13 years. Well, the first single-player top-down Zelda in 13 years.
Right.
It's just, everyone's erasing Triforce Heroes when it's so clever. And I love how it's cooperative over Four Swords, which is more competitive with
Right.
the Force Gems and all that. And then the totem mechanic is so genius and so Zelda. It just works so well.
No, I totally agree.
Sorry to steamroll your list. I just love that game.
I can't say it any better than you just did.
What's your number 8?
Link's Awakening. I really, really love the vibe of that game. What's funny is like I didn't play Link's Awakening until the HD remake, and then I went back and played Link's Awakening DX, and I actually like that one more. Like it's the one that if I get a new handheld that I'm like testing with, that's usually one that I immediately go to. Some of the songs in that game are absolutely beautiful. We considered doing I think it's literally like Link Awakens in our wedding. Like I just think it's like a beautiful piece of music.
Cool.
Yeah. I used to rock James to it when I would put him to bed. Yeah, I just like that game. It's super cute, and like it was so ahead of its time being on the Game Boy, and it's so unique. With Chain Chomp and just all the weird stuff that's in there. Battle of the Windfish is beautiful, but very cool game. Skyward Sword HD, like I hated Skyward Sword for a really long time on the Wii, for all the reasons that everyone probably hates that game. And I really think they did a great job with it. Like I wasn't expecting much when I went back and played that game right before James was born, and I was blown away. Like it's one of the last games that I remember like really having its hooks in me on the Switch, and probably because I didn't have a kid at that point, but it like the story really got me. I wanted to do everything I possibly could. It looks really, really good. I don't have to rely on like trying to get it running on Dolphin anymore, which is great. Yeah, they did a great job with it, especially transitioning it to a control scheme, which I wasn't expecting. Like I did eventually get used to that, which was good.
I still use the motion controls and also really
with the Joy-Con.
Yeah, which I know you have your feelings about.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I know. Yeah,
which is funny because my next one is Twilight Princess specifically on the Wii.
Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I loved playing that game on the Wii.
Okay.
Probably because it was like, it was a Wii launch game, right? Or a launch window game. I can't remember which one. I got it at Christmas. A launch game. Yeah. Okay, I got it at Christmas. Is why I couldn't remember. But yeah, like that Christmas break, that was all that I did. I remember bringing it over to a buddy's house New Year's Eve, and like a bunch of us playing it. And I just think that the dungeon designs are really cool. The time in my life that I was in, and that media was in when that game came out, very emo, angst, grungy. Like it was such a product of its time, and I love it for that. I would say that I like the Wii U remake more, but my gamepad's sticky, so like I'm never gonna play it again, and they're hard to get parts for now. So
yeah,
I'm just stuck with it. So like, please port it to Switch, and then maybe my mind will change.
Yeah, that'll be the best version if you get it on there for sure.
Yeah, Wind Waker HD is number 5. I'm sorry, number 5. For all the same reasons Logan said, but like you, like that was probably my top 3 a couple years ago. And as time has kind of gone on, and I've really sat with it, like I think the combat's incredible. I think the vibe is incredible. I love going to Dragon Roost Island. I love the boss battle there. I like that they improved the sailing mechanic. Tingles there. There are many tingles there, but
doing work on his island.
Yeah, there's a pink one.
Yeah,
but I can't give. I can't forgive the Triforce quest. Like I really can't. I just can't. Yeah. Link to the Past, number 4. It's Link to the Past. Like I don't know what else. What else can I say about Link to the Past that hasn't already been said? It's an incredible 2D Zelda game. I think Link Between Worlds, which is number 3, just expands on it, in my opinion. I was absolutely locked in on that game when it came out. To the point where I remember I was still living with my parents. I like canceled all my plans. I called out of work, and I remember sitting next to the fireplace with my 3DS connected to an outlet. And I was like, I'm not getting up from the spot until I've done this game.
That is the makings of a great weekend. When you are tethered on the 3DS, you've been marathoning.
Yeah.
I can think of that like Fire Emblem Fates. I remember the weekend that came out, I was just tethered to the outlet because those battles take 2 hours, and if your 3DS dies, that's it. You got to start over. So
they're that long?
Plugged in. In Conquest specifically, like the really hard campaign, they can be really long at the end and really, really intense. Yeah. That's before they added rewind to the series. Like if someone died, you could just hit hold start and then hit the power button, and you would just soft reset your 3DS and just start over. Do the whole fight from the beginning.
Wow.
Because you couldn't rewind.
That's probably why they implemented
I can't believe
it.
I did that. Yeah, I know. It took me 70 hours to beat Conquest, which should be like probably 30 hours if you never failed. Yeah, it's a brutal
That's
game.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Breath of the Wild. Made me fall back in love with Nintendo along with many, many other people. It revolutionized what Zelda's doing, for better or worse, in my opinion. But another game with just incredible vibes. The amount of times that game made me emotional by just its existence and what was happening in the world. Like, I will never forget coming across the Temple of Time for the first time in that game, and the music like just barely changing at that point. And it being at a time where Nintendo was so down for so long, and like we were starving and hungry as Nintendo fans. And just knowing that like it was gonna be okay. Like, this console was going to have a chance to actually succeed and be better. I loved my Wii U, but like I was afraid about the other people. And then, obviously the Switch took off, but what a game. Just absolutely incredible. And number 1 is Ocarina.
Game too. It's crazy.
I know. Yeah. And the Swan Song for the Wii U. And number 1's Ocarina of Time. Just pure nostalgia. I know I know there's problems with that game. I love what the speedrunning community has done with that game in the past couple of years. The code injection that has been happening with that game, where they've like rebuilt quests that weren't done, like with the Running Man and everything. So cool. Like, absolutely fascinating stuff. I awesome. Love just like the legacy that game has and what continues to live on with it. The Ship of Harkinian mod I mentioned earlier, like playing that game HD. Full mod support on PC. Like, I can do whatever I want with it now. I go back to it. I actually went back to it this year for the first time in probably like 3 or 4 years. And for a long time, I had played it like every year of my life, like until probably I was like 25, 26. So from 98 then till then. But it's great. Like, it's everything I love about Zelda and what I wish they would go back to, but I know they never will.
Yeah, I still think about the dungeons in Ocarina and just how good they are, how amazing they are. I don't have problems with Ocarina of Time. Like you said, people have. I don't have any problems with it. I just like the other 3 a little bit more. I think Ocarina of Time is a better game than Twilight Princess. I do, but I just like Twilight Princess more. But Ocarina of Time is like nearly perfect. It's amazing.
I think the problems that people have with it now is that it laid the groundwork for what many video games would become after it. And now to go back to it, it's like, okay, this is now you're in the fire world, now you're in the forest world. And like, it's very cookie cutter when you look at it from a 1,000-foot view. But I also, like, I love it for that. Like, I know exactly what I need to do in any given location. And it's very clear. And the world is like, each area is like fully realized. At least it feels that way to me. I have no qualms with Ocarina, but obviously it's my number 1 choice. But
yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. And just the dungeons, and something that Tom talked about in our review discussion of Echoes was that the dungeons feel like interconnected shrines. Like, you go into a room, you solve the puzzle in that room, and you are done in that room. And that to me is a shame. And I haven't played the game yet, so we'll see how I feel about them once I've played them. But that to me is disappointing because I was so excited that traditional dungeons are back, because they're just unlike anything else. I think about Ocarina of Time and the Fire Temple, and the first half of the quest is to get the hammer, and then the second is to scale to the top of that thing to hit the giant pillar that falls into the center room down in the basement so you can cross to get to the boss door. Just they're interconnected puzzle boxes that are just immaculately designed, and it's like those little puppet things that Aonuma used to make, these woodwork puppet boxes he's talked about Ocarina of Time's dungeons being inspired by. And they haven't been like that in a really long time.
I feel like Skyward Sword is the last one that, and that's probably why I like that game that much.
And even there, it's pretty simplistic.
It's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Like compared to what you have to do in the two standouts to me are Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. What you have to do in those two games, you could say Majora's Mask. I just don't like those dungeons very much. But in Snow Peak, you do have to like find the right level to punch the snow blocks to lower this pillar so you can get across to new areas. Or in the Great Bay, you do have to change the water level in one room so you can go back to the start of the dungeon where a propeller that was spinning clockwise is now spinning counterclockwise, and you can get into a room. Like, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Just doesn't exist anymore. And I miss it because when people say, "Oh, this game's like Zelda," I'm like, "It's not that though. It's not.
It's
like
not
that.
at that
There's
level.
nothing like that."
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know if they could do it anymore. I don't.
I was actually thinking that the other day. Like, you're talking Aonuma and Miyamoto in their prime. Like, they're in it. I don't know. And I've talked about this before, but like, you need people. I feel like what's kind of lost in our generation is like those people that are building, and I'm sure there's people out there doing it, but like, you're building a tangible physical puzzle with your hands, and then you're like, okay, how do I translate that to software? Versus now it's like, well, I'm someone that grew up playing this thing in software and I'm making my own version of it. I feel like it's much more difficult for your brain to kind of wrap that around and then make that translation, versus actually seeing it, like it's something you created with your hands. I don't know how many people are actually doing that anymore in these studios, and it's a lost art, I think.
I really like how you just put that, because it's something that really struck me when we were doing episode 100 a few weeks ago, and I learned the little tidbit about how are we going to make combat work in 3D with multiple enemies, and their answer was to go to that stage play of Samurai Combat,
right.
And then they turned that into a video game, and just seeing that the real world things Nintendo takes its inspiration from, and then a lot of other people just take inspiration from Nintendo games, and it's not the same. And yeah, it's a bummer. In Tears of the Kingdom, it got the closest I think they've gotten in a really long time. Did you do the Fire Temple yet?
In Tears of the Kingdom, I played, I was in it.
Okay, so have you done some of it to see like the central mechanic?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Tears of the Kingdom, in the Fire Temple, the mechanic is rail carts, mine carts, and train tracks. And there are several times where you have to flip them around to get to new areas. And it's by far my favorite dungeon in that game, and it's a divisive choice because it's very complicated and hard. And that's what I loved about it. And people are like, oh, I just cheated it. I used Ascend. I climbed around the outside. I glided through it. And I didn't do any of that. I played it as if it was Ocarina of Time, and I had none of those abilities. And all I used was the mine carts and the stuff they gave to me. And it was awesome. And it was the most I felt I've had to kind of zoom out and think about a dungeon as a whole, like, congruous thing since Twilight Princess. It's the first time. And I really liked that one. And then the others are just like the other ones in Tears of the Kingdom are just do these 5 things and then
they're pretty weak.
Fight the boss.
And I think that was one of the things that really got me out of that game was like, oh, there's Chris Duncan on Tears of the Kingdom again. but was just like, especially the Wind Temple. It felt beast. It felt the Wind Beast is sick. Like that, the song that plays there is sick. But yeah. It did feel a lot like, from what I remember of it, go to the area and hit the thing and move on. Like there are 5 things, you have to hit them. That's really all that it was.
Yeah. And they vary in quality. That one's rough. Because that one just feels like the Divine Beasts did. Just, okay, activate the terminals.
Exactly.
This is like, okay, do the stuff. But then there's a couple of them, and there's one more that's very Divine Beast-like that kind of stinks. But then there's 2 that in different ways... The one in the Gerudo, that one also really, really captures kind of some Twilight Princess-y vibes of kind of the more cinematic side of what dungeons could feel like.
Sure.
Where you're going through these rooms, you don't know what's around the next corner. It does that. So there were hints of it in Tears of the Kingdom. I think they were a enormous step up over Breath of the Wild's Divine Beasts, which I hated. I hated them so much. And I was fine with them in Tears of the Kingdom. Big step in the right direction. But to see this team go back and go all in on making a dungeon that you got to do this crazy stuff to manipulate the building itself. I don't know if they're ever going to do that again.
I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it happening.
I know in Breath of the Wild, you could like spin the camel and tilt the bird and move the trunk, but that's not the same. That's very artificial when you just go to the pause menu to do that. In Ocarina of Time, you're this cog in this machine that is manipulating the whole thing from within, and it's insane. And that's what I love the most about Zelda, that it's gone.
Yep.
It's gone. Anyways, that was a big tangent. Ocarina is a great choice for your number one.
Thank you.
Where do you see the highest Echoes of Wisdom could go based on your hype level, what you know about it, with this list you've created?
Based on my hype level and what I know about it, I feel like it'll... Yeah. Of course, I just closed my text edit of that list, but or Notepad. I'm on Windows. Mm-hmm. I feel like I could see it placing above Triforce Heroes, maybe above Link's Awakening if I like the puzzles enough. I think there's a very good chance, though, like you said, if it's like just an endless onslaught of simple puzzles where it's like, okay, I'm going in and I'm making a bed and now I'm a little bit higher and now I pressed a button. Like if it's that 40 times over, I may not even finish the game. Because, and I'll like,
I don't think it's going to be that.
It's my primary concern with this game because most of the footage we've seen, and I'm sure it's on purpose, but most of the footage we've seen, it's like, build the bed, now build the dresser. Cool, you went up 2 layers, and now you can do the thing. Like, that's all I've seen. And I feel like I'm not creative, and this is not a knock at the game. I'm not creative enough of a person to be able to think outside the box, to be able to solve puzzles in interesting ways. It's kind of the same problem I have with Tears of the Kingdom, where it's like, go build this crazy machine or motorcycle or whatever. And I'm like, that part of my brain doesn't work anymore. I'm too, like, my job requires me to be like fit into a box too much to be able to flex that muscle.
You're too efficient.
Like, I'm too efficient, but too like by the book, and it has to be easy for people to follow. So like if I stray from the path too much, then it gets too confusing. So I like that part of my brain just kind of shuts off. I feel like it's gotten better since James has been born, but it is a weird thing that I've like had to grapple with over the past couple of years.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. I worry about that for you too, because this is clearly very Tears inspired. Absolutely. In its open-ended puzzle solving nature. So we'll see. But Tom loved the puzzles, and Tom is a big critic of puzzles. Like, if you know, like the types of indie games he's into, he likes really complex stuff. And he said these are some of the best Zelda puzzles he's played. So we'll see. I have faith that
a bold claim, Mr. Marks.
It is a bold claim. It is very bold. We'll see. For me, I think if it blows me away, if it's everything I want it to be with the puzzle solving, I could see this entering my top 5 at the number 5. Just beating out Wind Waker because of some of the problems we talked about with it.
Yeah.
I think you need to be an incredibly all-time generational game to crack my top 4 of Ocarina, Twilight, Link Between Worlds, and Tears of the Kingdom. Like, that is some untouchable stuff up there. I don't see it quite hitting that.
And even what Tom says, like in his review, he said it's a very good remix of a formula that we are familiar with, but it is not a reimagination of a formula.
Mm-hmm. Twilight Princess isn't either, though. It's like the perfect refinement of that 3D Zelda.
Yeah. We'll see.
So I hope it goes to number 5, but I think it'll for sure make it in the top 10. I've played this game for an hour and a half. I already like it more than Link's Awakening. I can tell you that right now. Like, I already think that it's going to be in the... I love what they're doing. I can't wait to play it. I'm excited to hear what you think, Chris, what Justin thinks when he gets back, and what all of you listeners think. Email us your thoughts, Echoes of Wisdom, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com, and maybe we should set up we could either take over the Zelda channel.
The Zelda channel is going to get taken over. That's just what's going to happen. Yeah.
We'll have to make some spoiler rules in there. We'll have to make sure people don't get too talky in there. So that's something to think about. Okay, wow. We just talked for almost an hour about Zelda, but that is predictable.
This is the
That's
way.
predictable. Let's talk a little bit about Mario Party. There's a new Super Mario Party Jamboree overview trailer. This is their traditional 6-minute trailer. They usually drop about a month before a game comes out. And they showed a lot of stuff we already knew. By the way, my lights just flickered. I could lose power at any moment. We have like a 60-mile-an-hour windstorm right now.
Oh, no.
Just throwing that out there.
Well, folks, if this is chopped up and weird, you know why.
You know why. Yeah, I meant to say that at the top because it would be a fun thing to follow as we went along here. But I just noticed my lights flicker for the first time. Anyways, Mario Party. Something that is the most concerning part of this trailer to me is they revealed the new Jamboree Buddy system, which is like the ally system they had in some of the handheld ones and in Super Mario Party, where you get allies with special abilities. It doesn't look like they're joining you in mini games like they were in Super Mario Party, but you compete in this 4-player minigame to see who wins the ally. Like Yoshi's is riding on Yoshi's back and eating fruit. Whoever wins that minigame wins Yoshi. And then Yoshi's ability is that he can copy an item from your opponent and put that item in your inventory. Sure, that's just like a glorified item. That's cool. But there's this really unclear part of the trailer, Chris, where they say, and your Jamboree buddy can even buy stars for you. And then it shows someone buying 2 stars at once. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? That might be going off the deep end for me.
I mean, I feel like they did that so that we would talk about it, right? Like they left that pretty open so that we people that are really in the weeds of Mario Party are like, what are they doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
else is like, why do you guys care about this?
This seems game breaking. But it like I love it and I hate it because it does seem like one of those things that like when is Mario Party at its best? When it's injecting chaos, like in my mind. And speculating, I imagine that's like one character's thing, or like they have the ability to like if they're going to purchase an item, you get 2 of that item, and one of those items might be a star. I could see that being a thing. I think
because it was Bowser in the trailer they showed doing it. If his thing is like he threatens Toad to sell him 2 instead of 1, I'm fine with that. Because even Superstars has the 2-for-1 star card item where you can buy 2 at once.
Right. I could see it working as long as like it's a fair way of getting it. You know. Although I don't know that I care. It could be fair or it could be exactly. It could be fair or it could be like randomized. Like, okay, we're gonna roll the dice and see who's gonna get Bowser as their buddy. I'm cool with it. Let people get mad.
Super Mario Party just became kind of if you have the most allies, you win. And I just don't want that.
I don't want it to be that.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also had the dice blocks, which, again, it seems like they've completely scrapped. And in Super Mario Party, if you had 3 allies, you could pick to use their dice blocks in.
Right.
I hated it. I hated that mechanic. So I think that's gone, which is a good thing. But that is currently my biggest hesitation. Elsewhere, we saw Minigame Bay, classic minigame mode stuff. We saw Paratroopa Flight School, which is a separate mode where you flap your wings with the Joy-Con to deliver passengers to their destination. And it looks like something I will try exactly one time. Just based on what we saw, it did not look very good. And that world is. Did you watch the trailer, Chris? Have you seen?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think of the Paratroopa thing?
I think it's something I'll never go into.
Yeah, you won't even try it the one.
I don't even know if I'll give it a go. Like, there's I don't know. There's a couple of these modes that they've been putting in recent Mario parties that it's like it's not why I'm there, and I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one, and I think I said this before. I haven't seen one that I've really, really gotten into since like the bot battling in Mario Party 5.
Oh, where
if you remember that?
Where you're on like the ships, where you're riding around in the cars that you design?
You have the cars that you have like the cars that you design, and then like you can buy the wheels and like I think you played mini games.
Awesome.
You unlock coins, and then like you like battled these things like battle bots.
I did that all the time with my sister. I loved it.
Yeah, it was super fun. I think that's the last one that I've really, really gotten into. And Superstars didn't really have anything like that. They had Minigame Island or whatever, but like that was literally just a way to play. Yeah, they always have that. Maybe I'll try it. I have low expectations of these modes anymore. I don't know.
Then there's Toad's Item Factory, which is a 4-player co-op thing where you're using your Joy-Con to move a ball through a maze, basically, and you're flipping levers and switches and stuff. Looks fine. Again, not what I'm there for. Then you have Rhythm Kitchen, which is rhythm motion control-based minigames where you're chopping up carrots by slicing the Joy-Con at the right time, or you're spicing it by dancing along with Waluigi's movements, which is the thing they did in Super Mario Party.
Yeah, that one I might try. I like me some rhythm games. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That one looks good. And then they showed the Koopathlon and Bowser's Kaboom Squad, which we already talked about a lot on this show because it's the 2 modes that I got to try. And kind of how I'm feeling about this, Chris, this is a comparison that's weird and niche, but you'll get, is I'm hoping this is going to be like Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble was, where they have all this extra crap I don't care at all about, but the basic game just nails exactly what I want. I'm hoping that's what this all turns out to be.
I think there's a good chance of that. The fact that they're not locking everybody into motion controls for mini games makes me think they're at least paying attention of like, what do the core Mario Party fans care about, and then what are families going to care about, or what are they going to find fun? Because you have to appeal to both.
And it looks packed. There's so much in this.
There's a lot here.
It's really, really full. So that is 3 weeks away. That snuck up on me because it's been all eyes on Zelda. But it is 3 weeks from the day this episode goes up that we'll have Mario Party in our hands. So looking forward to that. We are going a little long here. So let's wrap up here with some impressions of the Nintendo Museum are out. People got to go visit the museum in Kyoto, and they're publishing impressions. I'm pulling from IGN. Someone from IGN Japan went and checked it out, and that's up on IGN.com right now. They called it light on history, big on fun. That's exactly what I was worried about. It seems like what it is. So here's a quote from the article. However, despite the abundance of Nintendo products on display, there are very few items like development materials, original drawings, or prototypes that you can't find anywhere else, which was disappointing. And for a museum, the amount of explanation and context that Nintendo gives to its displays is also surprisingly limited. As a longtime Nintendo fan, I found myself hoping for more than just final products, and I would have liked some deeper context added to the exhibits. Yeah. So everyone was like, oh, just wait to see what they didn't show. It seems it's just come look at every product they've ever made.
But, and this is a big but for Chris Schreiber. The merch looks sick. There's so much merch. The merch
looks really sick. Yeah, talk about it. What did you see that you liked?
I saw that there is Wii U and Virtual Boy merchandise. I also saw they have giant plush controllers. I at least saw a Super Nintendo and an N64 one.
And there's a Wii remote and a Famicom.
The Wii remote's huge from what I saw. It looks like a bed.
Like a bench.
Yeah, it's insane. I haven't seen a GameCube one. I imagine there has to be one. But like I literally I saw the images and was like, okay, so I really have to get it together, talk to my wife, and figure out how we go to Japan. And then not only do we have to save to go to Japan and bring our son with us and everything, but I have to save enough money to buy all of these pillows and ship them back home because I need them all.
So the pillows is really what you want.
The pillows are so sick.
Yeah, they are.
There's a couch coming to this basement. And just cover it in Nintendo pillows. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. You're a homeowner. You can do that. I just am in an apartment. I don't have room for that stuff.
I can do that, but like I have to watch how much I do. Like it's that, and then I have the Jiggy pillow, like from Banjo-Kazooie, and like that's where I have to stop. They can't go around the house. You know, I'm not allowed to do that. But this dump is my domain behind me, so I'll do whatever I want to my swamp.
I know. I'm in the same place where like the space you see behind me, that's the display space I have. And so I look at something like the Lego Deku Tree, which I saw in person, and it's gorgeous, man.
I bet it is.
I got to find room for that. I have to find room for that because it is beautiful. And, you know, I was a little bit timid on it when they first announced it. I was like, yeah, it's not exactly what I want, but it's cool that they're doing Zelda. But seeing it built in person on display at the Lego store, it's amazing. It looks so cool. It was the Breath of the Wild one they had up, and it was just stunning.
They didn't have both?
Nope, just that one.
That's kind of a bummer. I mean, it makes sense though. I I love sets like that, like the where it's like a full scale like scene.
Yeah.
But like you really do, like you have to have like a massive bookshelf or something to put it on.
Yes.
Even I have Bowser up there behind me. I do plan on getting the Super Mario World one. Because like
that's
one
out
of
in
my
like 5
favorite
days
games of all times. Yeah. The question block unfortunately broke recently. I have to put it back together. I don't know when I'm going to do that. What was I going to say? Oh, what makes me think like 10 years from now, whenever this basement does get finished, if I did have a shelf, I would probably get that because I was on a call with somebody from work that had the Rivendell set from the Lord of the Rings, and I like stopped the call to be like, "That's amazing."
That seems to be the holy grail that everybody wants that's into Lord of the Rings.
It's
I'm not.
beautiful. I mean, if you're are you a big Lord of the Rings fan or no?
No.
Okay,
No.
then yeah, it's
So I don't get it, but it looks amazing. The set looks really, really cool.
yeah. I mean, it's where they formed the Fellowship, Logan. Like they went to Rivendell and they spoke with the elves.
It is a cool set. And then actually on display at the Lego store, they also had the other huge Lord of the Rings one that's evil. The
Eye of Sauron.
Yeah. That was there too. It's huge. It's an enormous set.
I've been watching The Hobbit lately.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. You
So
like
it's
those
like
movies?
it's fresh. I like them more than I thought I would. Here's if you work at where I work, don't say anything to anyone. I've been doing work that's like monotonous and is so boring, but requires just enough attention that like I have to do it right. But I can't stay focused if I'm only doing that. So I've been watching all the Hobbit movies while I'm doing it, and I normally am not that person where I watch anything and work. And I've been like wildly more productive while I'm doing it, so
Nice.
I don't feel bad. But
Nice.
yeah, I watched the first 2 last week, and now I'm watching the third.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right. I didn't like those very much in the theaters.
I saw them all back to back at a movie tavern when the third one came out, and by the end of it, I was like, "Get me out of here!"
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Okay, back to the Nintendo Museum. I'm pulling us back on the rails. Yeah, the merch is awesome. And the thing that I commented that I really want is they have mugs with the logo of every console. And I want the whole set.
I did not see
and
that.
I want to use them on this podcast because I just usually use like the IGN mug or the Mariners mug. But I really like it'd be so cool. I got the Virtual Boy mug this week. That it's such a cool set.
Have you been on their site in the last couple days? On Nintendo's website in the last couple days? On their store?
No,
I haven't. I usually check like once a month.
On these mugs?
I don't know. If they are, we got a problem. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're not.
I don't think they are.
They're not.
I don't think that they would.
Okay.
It seems to be just museum merch. But those looked cool. Chris is freaking out. What's he
You know what is on there?
What?
There is a green Dodo Airlines Animal Crossing like bomber jacket. Like track jacket.
Oh my.
It looks sick.
Are you going to buy that right
No. I already have a Mario Kart jacket. I don't need that many jackets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks sick though. If I
Dodo Airlines.
Dude, if I was like a pilot, I would absolutely buy that jacket. I know a pilot. I might buy it for him. That's sick. Sorry. I once again derailed.
No, that's on topic. That's good. I just want to say that the merch was awesome. That was the highlight of all the stuff we learned today. I'm so incredibly disappointed in this thing. I'm really, really disappointed.
Yeah.
Why are you disappointed? Same reasons?
It's the same exactly. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it like that one whole episode, but it is like for diehard fans, we really like. I would love to see like here are all of the original sketches of like the Super Mario Brothers, or like I know there's like the video game museum that like has some of that kind of stuff. But you're talking Nintendo, like it's a Nintendo museum, be a museum to some extent. You know, like it doesn't need to be a
Not
theme
a
park.
gallery.
You have one of those, right? Exactly. Like this is a gallery with like games. That's not why I'm there.
Yeah, it's a bummer. And then something I was thinking was, but it'll be cool. You can learn the basics, right? If you aren't a big Nintendo nerd, you can go and learn the basic history. But it doesn't even seem like that. It's just if you take the activities out of the equation, and I think about attending this museum, I feel like it's not great for anybody because diehard fans aren't going to learn anything or see anything cool that's new we haven't really seen before.
They're going to see merch.
And new people. What was that?
They're going to see merch they haven't seen before.
Yeah, that's where you see merch we haven't seen before. And then people who aren't huge Nintendo diehards aren't going to learn anything because, according to the impressions, there's no context for any of it. So who is this serving? What is this for? Except, I don't know, it feels like, honestly, kind of low effort to me. I'm not happy with it. I think that if you told me there's a Nintendo museum opening in Japan and it doesn't really something I feel a big drive to pull the money together to go to, like, that's crazy. Like, that you and I aren't like, we got to get over there to go to this thing. That's a big miss.
Yeah. I feel like this could be one of those things that, and I'm probably dead wrong because, like, the merchandise alone, it will probably keep it open. But I could see them weirdly, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, being like, all right, we're closing shop. And then like another 5 years from them, we're like, man, remember that Nintendo museum where they had all that sick merch that we never got?
All about the merch.
Yeah.
We got to get someone over there to get us some merch. I think that some of it looked so great. Yeah, I got to look closer at some of the pictures. There's some cool stuff, but I love that they're just all in on, hey, Virtual Boy mugs and t-shirts and pins. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah,
that's great. But the rest of it is really disappointing. You see they're selling Ultra Hands? That is cool.
That is very cool. Like a real one?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
In a box that looks just like the box that the original one came in. Yeah. So that is one that...
So it's the best Nintendo store ever made is what this should be.
Yeah, probably.
Like, just call it that. It's a Nintendo history store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's actually the question. How much of this makes it to New York?
I don't know if any of it does. I don't know, but maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, it could. You'll be going on a little road trip that we'll send you on if that ends up happening.
I gotta keep an eye on this. That would be really great. Yeah. Not great for my wallet, but
no. Or mine. I'd be Venmoing you so much money for all the stuff I'd have you send me. That would get ugly quick. Okay, we're running over, so let's answer our one EGADS email for the week and get out of here. You can email the show, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com, or I don't know, drop in our Discord. We have a listener questions channel, I think. Yes, we do. So do one of those two things, just like Chad did, friend of the show Chad, who says, out of curiosity, if you have more than one avid gamer in your household, are you planning on purchasing more than one Switch 2, either when it comes out or sometime later? And Chad says, my spouse and I are both avid Nintendo gamers, so we'll likely each purchase our own Switch 2 as soon as possible. And Chad, your timing on this question was crazy because it's something I was thinking about literally last weekend, and I want to hear what Chris has to say about it.
I will likely end up doing the same thing that has happened for every Nintendo console since my wife and I got together. Which is I will buy one on launch day. We will both use it off and on, like depending on what's out and what we need to play. Mm-hmm. And when the time comes that a game that we both like, I have to play this at the same time as you, and there's like I'm not getting in an argument about it. That's when I'll buy the new one. What
kind of game is that?
So before it was Animal Crossing because like we couldn't have the same island. Like we had to have a new Switch, which honestly I think a lot of people were in that position, and that bolstered a lot of numbers during COVID. The wild card here is James because like this life cycle will likely be his first Switch life cycle. It probably won't be until he's like 4 or 5 that like I would get him his own.
That's so cool. That's so exciting. It's awesome.
It's crazy to think about. But like that's a wild card. Like he'll likely get whatever like the light version is, this generation. Because he's not using mine. And then at that point, like it'd be like, well, James has his, mommy will have hers. Like,
Yeah.
What about you?
See, I'm in a weird spot because my girlfriend has a Switch Lite. And she got it in 2020, and played. We got really into Splatoon 2 together during the pandemic. And then we both got Splatoon 3 on launch, and we played a ton of that together. But she only really uses it for Splatoon and Animal Crossing. That's it. Those are the two Nintendo series that she plays. And so it's like, I guess whenever Splatoon 4 comes out, or Animal Crossing, whichever comes first, that would probably be the time that we get a second one. But she's like, I told her, like, oh, it might have an 8-inch screen. She's like, I don't want one that big. I like my Switch Lite. So I'm hoping that they put out the Lite with Splatoon or something like that, which would be a really good pairing for it, because that's something that's not a split screen game. It is not a local multiplayer game. It's online. If you want to play with people in the house, you have to all have your own one. So I'm hoping Splatoon 4 or Animal Crossing is something they push alongside a Switch Lite 2, or something like that. But Chris is making a face like that's not going to happen.
I didn't think of it until just now. I don't know how long it'll be until we get a light version of this console. Like, not to get overly technical, but if that leak is real, the battery on it is small for a reason that I feel like we don't know yet. Like, I don't know how much smaller they can make it given the amount of power that is in it without jacking up the price like significantly. Yeah. I think this thing will launch, this version of it will launch for $399 if we're lucky, because the yen has gotten so weak. I hadn't really thought about it until now. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with a light version of this console.
Yeah, or is it just because they will do it? They will do some
eventually
sort of revision.
Yeah. But when? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
We'll have to see.
So yeah, the answer to me is it's up in the air. I'm getting one on day one, like guaranteed. That I didn't even say that, but it's not even a question. Like, it's happening.
I don't think anybody was ever, wondering if that was happening.
No, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until.
Yeah, they could not release any games for it, and I'll be like, cool new hardware, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, bye.
Really? If they just no launch lineup, you'd be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like what's happening with PS5 Pro over on Sony's side. Yeah.
What do you mean?
No, day one for me. Yeah, again, for the third time, and then the fourth time in Lego form. Awesome, guys. And anyways, launch day for me, and then depends on like a Splatoon or Animal Crossing for our second. But yeah, that's why the Switch sold so many, is because so many households have bought so many. And it's going to happen again. But that's it for this week, unless you have any final thoughts, Chris.
Last thing I have is this will already be up. I don't know what the status of stock will be. But in 43 minutes from now, Taki Udon will be posting the OLED mod for pre-order on his site. If that behooves you at all, if you're a Switch Lite owner.
Feel pretty burned by that, Chris. I feel pretty burned.
Yeah.
Which we've been talking about this mod a lot, like a ridiculous amount, because it's exciting. And I was actually going to mod some hardware, but now I'm like, basically, if you don't know, this is a mod that you can install yourself an OLED panel on your Switch Lite to give it an OLED display that's actually brighter than even the Switch OLED panel from what I was reading about.
But wait, there's more. They also have a bundle where they're replacing the Joy-Con with Hall Effect sticks, and they're adding TV output to the Switch Lite, which it currently does not have.
That's crazy. So you can turn your Switch Lite into a Switch OLED Lite with docking capability. Like, it can be the only thing that you need. Like, with sticks that won't drift. But the monkey's paw.
The monkey's paw is that you can have any color you like as long as it comes in black.
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, basically, if you want a touch screen, which I obviously do, like, I wouldn't want to strip that away. It's only, I think, black or white for the panel.
Correct.
And then you can get any color. They are aligning them with every special edition Switch Lite Nintendo has ever put out, including the gold one that comes out today, but there's no touch screen there. And I was going to do this to a gold one, and now I'm like, what's the point?
So he did follow it up with a tweet later that said they are planning on, like, I don't know the technicality of why they can't make it work, but basically you can bring your digitizer from your existing Switch Lite with you with that gold panel. But there was some caveat, like the spacing might be weird. So, like, I would imagine if you pressed it, it would it would have some like clunk to it. Yeah, which isn't great.
Like that. No.
So I'm this is the one that I'm gonna do. This is my blue teal switch light.
You're doing it. Okay.
I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I'm gonna get it. I've in my old age, I've used that phrase a lot today. I have been like getting away from colored consoles as much as I can. As much as I love the Zelda consoles, I'm getting away from them. Like it's black or white for me at this point. I have an aesthetic going on in the office or office, air quotes. And this is the only thing that has color is this switch light. So like I'm good if this ends up being black and that's it.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. Hopefully I can get one.
I think I'm out on it. I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay.
I don't want. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Well,
I was gonna.
I'll give an update if I get it and if I install it correctly.
Yeah.
We'll
it
see
doesn't
how
ship till November, so it'll be a bit until we hear about it, I think.
Yeah. Nice winter project.
Cool. Well, on that very Shriver note, that's another episode of the Toadstool Boardroom in the Books. We're a weekly Nintendo show here on Thursdays at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever audio service you like to use, with a video version over on YouTube. You can find the show on Twitter at ToadstoolBR. You can send us an email, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. Join the Toadstool Boardroom Discord server. We're planning some game nights in there right now, so if you want to get in on a future game night, hop in. There's a link to that in the description of every episode. Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me at Shrives93. I will be tweeting about that OLED mod whenever it comes out in November. But I also am going through my retro collection bit by bit and picking out the things that mean nothing to me at this point. If you are so inclined as to purchase one of these things, hit up my DMs. Currently have a copy of Super Mario RPG, complete in box, as well as a copy of Punch-Out Super.
The SNES version, just to be clear.
SNES version,
remake.
right. Yeah. SNES version, complete in box with the instruction manual. Other one is Punch-Out Super, which was given out in an NES golf tournament for the Famicom. It's a gold cartridge. So if you're a super big Punch-Out fan, that's a cool one.
Dude, that's one I can't believe you're selling, if I'm going to be real with you. That one surprises me.
You know what it is? Is like I'm at the point now where I've considered selling all of it, because it's like I never get to use this stuff, and now I don't even get to look at it. Like I have nowhere to put anything, so it's just been sitting in a box for almost 2 years now, and I'm like, what do I need more right now? A gold copy of Punch-Out or insert home thing here, insert child thing here, and it's that. So it's like that matters more right now, and I don't know that I'll be like. Yeah. Kicking myself if I don't have it later. Like, is it cool? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But like, I can say, yeah, I own that for like 10 years and be okay.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Part of growing up.
Are you going to link to your eBay profile in the description?
I'm not using eBay. No. Hit me up on Twitter. No, hit me up on Twitter. Okay. Open PayPal and Venmo and all that. No, eBay takes too many fees. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No eBay.
Crazy.
No eBay for Shriver.
Nope.
You can find Justin on Twitter at KOREIS or in Tokyo if you happen to be there. But that's where he's at right now. Awesome. So go hit him up, say hi. You can find me at Logan J. Plant. I'm going to be talking about Zelda. I can't wait. I hope you all enjoy Zelda so much this week. We're excited to talk about it next week. But until then, that's all the time I got. I got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Have a great week. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time right here in the Toadstool Boardroom.
Bye-bye.